In fact, you are right. I think I mentioned that, and I talked about how people take different aspects of the taxonomies and apply it to them in their lives. So thank you very much, Nanaya, for that. Yep. And I think Benedicta Mawena's hand is up. And Benedicta Mawena, please, can you go ahead?
So Doc, I learned about the various taxonomies, and for me, what hit me was that the methodology is one of the taxonomies because coming to us or coming to this stage, we've always just known methodology as one chapter of the research work. So it was interesting to know that okay, there's an interrelation and it's one of the taxonomies that guide the research. So that's what I took away from the class.
Interesting one, interesting one. I'm tempted to take two more people. I'm hearing different things that is quite interesting too. So let me take one or two people, any female or male, any of you can go. Yes. Yes, some. Thank you very much. I think I saw Derek's hand up too
Okay.
earlier. Yeah, Samuel, go ahead.
Prof, I believe you mentioned something about methodology as a write-up and also as a process. So the two things. One is one that guides the whole research, and the other thing is what you put into the document as a report as the process. Methodology as a write-up and then methodology as a process. You mentioned this too.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you are right about that. I remember I mentioned that. Yeah, Derek, I think I saw your hand up earlier. Sorry, I didn't focus
Okay.
to bring it back.
Okay, so Prof, I think most of the things that they wanted to say, I did. They have said them. I wanted to say they have said it already. But what really struck me was the journey of the PhD from the beginning.
Okay.
So it looked like most of us had the perception of, okay, I'm come to just write my my thesis and then disappear from there and I have a PhD. But it's more of this is how I describe it, like apprenticeship. You learn so many different things all along the way, and you should be very tactful in your decision making. You should learn how to manage the politics among various supervisors or the lecturers that are going to influence your people.
Okay.
And then the last one is your supervisor should always know about something you are doing and then know how. In fact, the men should respect their supervisors. And then the females have forgotten, but he said there's no way you should make it too personal. You should always respect your supervisors. That's what I took from the last week's lecture. Thank you.
Okay. So I think you have actually hit the nail on the head as I wanted to hear you say, and we have actually mentioned some of the things I talked about. That's very good. I'm very happy about that. Joshua, I see a hand up from Joshua. Joshua, you can go ahead. Then we can then see whether we can start. Okay.
Okay, Prof. I want to look at the paradigm perspective. I think that this is personal reflection. But before that, I think Derek left, what we call it, he left something regarding a student and the supervisor relationship. The ladies, you said they should not be cooking for their supervisors, that they should be careful that things are happening. I think that's what Derek wants to say, but he didn't have the courage to say it.
Yeah, bringing trouble to class.
So if I should go on this, I was reading and then try to put myself, which paradigm or where do I fall? So who am I, Joshua? So one of the things I realized, which I picked from the critical realist, is that we think that there is more to life than even what we are observing or whatever we are seeing now. And then we also always question why this happened. so that, or we always tend to find the explanation or know the meaning why certain actions took place. I think these are the things I learned if I should explain from personal reflection. Thank you, Prof. Yeah, hello.
I've heard you. You went ahead.
Okay.
You went ahead of the class to say things that we didn't talk about, but I just wanted to accommodate you. So, Emmanuel, let me hear from you now. Emmanuel,
Yeah, Prof.
what
Thanks.
did you-
Yes, sir, Prof. Yeah, Prof. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes.
One thing that struck me was that you advised us that we should start getting confused early before it's too late. And you gave us a situation where one of a student was not ready, and after the fifth year, you have to absorb the person and assist the person to complete his work. And the advice was that we should start early so that we start getting confused earlier before it's too late. And you give us the milestone from year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and what you advise us to do in those years. And you mentioned that we should now expose ourselves to the international audience, such that they will know us of our interest in those areas, and they can start sharing notes with us to get to our destination earlier. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is really a good summary. You went for CNN or BBC. Very good. Very much point.
And Prof, the last one was that you mentioned that you share with us your chapter 5 of your PhD work, and
Okay,
we
didn't
were
I do that?
no. I,
Okay.
I couldn't sleep throughout the days because I did not see it among the list of items
Ah,
you share with us.
really?
Mhm.
Let me go to the
Yes,
class
yes,
page and check. Let me
Prof.
just give me a
Yes,
second.
Prof.
Let me just check the
Eh,
UGBS.
Yes, yes, Prof.
So
Mhm.
I shared the table of paradigms. I shared the qualitative wisdom character. I shared the course outline.
Course
Yes,
outline.
I didn't share my chapter 5. You're right. Wow.
Yes, Prof.
I didn't tell you. Yeah, I didn't.
Prof. And you shared one research paper, but not your chapter 5.
Yeah, but nobody requested for it on the platform. Okay, no worry.
We
All right.
were hopeful it will come.
Yes, it's true. We have been hoping that some things will change in Ghana. Change. Hope is not good. Though. Hope deferred is not good. Okay, so just give me a second. Let me just locate my chapter 5, and then if I don't find it right now, because I'm using a different computer now. If I don't find it, then just give me a minute. I'll just locate it.
Okay, Prof.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You are good.
Actually, it would have been good if you had given it to you because it would have helped you understand what I'm going to teach you very well today. Oh, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
In my mind, I thought I'm giving it to you. But who had the
Sorry.
time to go back and watch the class video when I shared the video? Who was able to?
I did, Prof.
Okay. So were there some things you heard differently when you went back to listen again? Because sometimes I have some students, they go back and say, did he even say this? Okay, here's something.
Yeah, to be sincere, it gave me a document to at least replay them in several times.
Okay.
And to get to yes understanding. As you mentioned in your previous lesson, it was not recorded and people were confused. But now, as you said, borrowing your own words, we have evidence. So this evidence has served as my pillow. So as soon as I finish the case homework, I also do my homework with it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the feedback on that in that session. I think you are very right about we getting. Don't worry. Let me just give you the whole page. You can go straight to chapter 5, but the whole page is already with some of the students. So let me just give you the whole.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Prof. We are
Just find
grateful.
the whole page.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so that you
Thank
can
you,
go
sir.
straight to chapter 5 and then because if you look at the PhD, you can even look at the chapter 5, you can look at the appendixes and stuff that can help you understand some of the things. So I'm sharing the whole PhD on the class platform. So I can
Thank you
give
very much, Prof.
some guide on it. Yeah. I think
Thank you,
that's
Prof. We are grateful.
yeah, that will help some of the students who are trying to understand the next step. Take.
Grateful, Prof.
Okay. So right now we have been able to. Okay, I've now found the chapter 5, but don't worry. Now I'll give you the whole PhD, so you don't even need the yes, you don't even need that one. Oh, okay, good. Interesting. Okay. Now I've not opened my PhD folder for years now. I've now seen the question they asked me in the Viva. Okay. Thank you very much. So I think we have we have had a good session in the first round of lectures. We have been able to appreciate what it is to learn and understand concerning the thematic areas in understanding science and scientific thinking. I don't think what I taught you is exhaustive. What I have not yet given you is I have to try and get you the textbooks I mentioned, that especially the one from this gentleman, Colin Fisher. So please, this one they remind me. I have it in another machine, so I'll get it for you after the class. So remind me after that. Okay. So we are just going to start. I think Dr. Musa has joined us now. So let me check. Okay. Yes, Dr. Musu, if you want to say one word before I start teaching.
No, Prof, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much. Then I'm coming to start. Okay, so I think when we met last week, we talked about a number of things, and I talked about how we break down the different paradigms by use of the taxonomies. Then I went on to talk about the fact that the research paradigm itself is a set of beliefs,
Hello,
values,
Prof.
beliefs, which are. Oh, sorry, I'm not
Hello,
sharing.
Prof.
I'm not sharing my screen. Yes, I realize it myself. Thank you. So I talked about the research paradigms being a set of beliefs, values, and techniques which are shared by members of the scientific community. We understood the scientific community to be the discipline that we belong to. So those who are in HR, accounting, those who are in MIS operations, and those who are in marketing and finance, all of you are different types of scientific communities. And the techniques and then the values and the beliefs tend to guide the people who are in that scientific community on the type of problems that the scientists there should address and the type of explanation that are acceptable to them. So it's not just the idea that it's just beliefs. It is also kind of tend to guide their actions in terms of research. And I mentioned that there are emerging paradigms, there are old paradigms, there are paradigms that have been born out of a combination of some of the existing ones. And I mentioned a number of them. Like I said that the core ones that most of us knew when we were doing our PhD was positivism, interpretivism, and then the critical paradigms. And then later on, between the critical paradigms and then positivism, we have realism there. So we have got positivism from Fisher's own, positivism, interpretive realism, and critical realism. So those were that are strong in the literature. And I've got Fisher's book here. I'll share it with you. I think I've got Creswell's one too. But interestingly, what you end up realizing is that Creswell, I don't know whether because he's UK based or tends to use different words for some of the words that, for example, what Creswell and Fisher calls interpretive is what Creswell called constructivism. And then Creswell didn't talk about this positivism. He said that positivism was old and there's a new set of people who are called the post-positivists. That means that they're trying to have changed some stance on the old positivism and added some few things. So he called them the post-positivism. And then he mentioned that there's also another set of people called the pragmatists. They don't believe in any of the paradigms. They do whatever will work is what we will use. So they don't think that one paradigm should overrule one work. When we are doing the work, whatever will work here is what we use. If we are doing research problem, what will work is what we apply. If you are doing the methods, what will work is what we apply. So they call the pragmatists. Now, this is an area that you have to be very careful. I'll come back to it later. Most of the times I've gone to PhD vivers and people are saying they're pragmatists, they end up nearly failing. Because everything you ask, they say, oh, because I'm pragmatist, I use whatever to work. So there's no, they try to, instead of you understanding what pragmatism is, they use it to answer every question. You ask many questions and say, oh, pragmatists, we use whatever will work. So why did you do this? I use it because it will work. I say, ah. So there's no scientific decision making in any of the things you are saying. So please try to stay away from that, in my view. Then advocacy and participatory. Those who look at it from an advocacy point of view and a participatory point of view. In terms of who you are researching, either you are advocating for them, or they are also participants, but you are kind of engaging them in the way that they participate in the research. But we'll talk about that when we get to these things. Then you also have positivism, and then you have got interpretive and critical theory and critical realism coming from the Olakowski and Barodi, and then Myers and Avison, who have actually also mentioned a number of them. So we have all of these being areas of research or patterns of research that has been accepted by quite a number of people, and we want to try and understand them and know what we are trying to do. Now, I mentioned that for us to understand patterns, we need to understand the ontological question we're asking, the epistemological, the methodological. So let's take it, for example, the first one. Positivism that we mentioned that time tends to have assume that there's an objective reality, which is single and concrete. And the researcher is independent from what is being researched. And then so that there's a distance, they appreciate that there can be a distance between the researcher and the object of the study. So the knowledge that is discovered and verified is coming out of direct observation and not interactions with the object of study. So I can actually learn of the object of study without even knowing his name. I can just give him a question and he answers it and I can collect it and go. So they try to use instrumentation to be able to predict and describe reality. And deductive reasoning is the form of reasoning that they use in terms of deducing from the data, or they hypothesize in the beginning and they try to find out whether their hypothesis has got support or not support. So the positivists believe in empiricism, which the idea that observation and measurement are the core of scientific endeavor. So you have to go there and observe, and you have to try and capture that observation through the appropriate measurement tools and use them to be able to tell us what the knowledge is. Now, the purpose is to instrumentally learn about the reality so that general laws that govern reality can be discovered and explained in order to predict and control reality. That's what you see with the positivists. Okay. So that is one thing that we see here. Then we go on to interpretive. Interpretive believe that the world itself has multiple realities and is value-laden. Reality is socially constructed. So we, as interacting with the subject, we kind of tend to construct the reality. So in terms of epistemology, the researcher is not independent. Yeah, it's not independent from what is being researched. The knower and the known are co-created during the inquiry. That means that the way you ask the questions, as you're interacting with the person, you can even shape the answer that will come up. I've seen people who go to do interviews and then they actually go with suits, and it affects the way especially with the interpretive stance. Somebody will say that the way you appear towards the consumer, the participant, change their views about what they wanted to tell you. And if you went there dressed like one of their kind, they would have told you something different. Meaning that the thing was an interaction based on what they could feel, or they could actually, how they could engage with the particular researcher who was interacting with them or asking the questions. So you can be biased by the researcher's individual perception and the researcher's presentation. And they also say that knowledge is established through the meanings attached to the phenomena being studied. And those meanings are what the people share. So your objective is to try to understand your own meanings that you bring and bracket them aside and focus on what the people's own is. But note that as you're interacting with them, the way you ask the question, your mannerisms can even inform the way they answer you and the way they interact with you. Can you imagine you going to an office, you collect data, and then you realize that as soon as you meet there, you go and meet your old schoolmate, you're going to collect data from him. The way he will even welcome you and even interact with you, especially if you're in good terms whilst you're in school, could even change the way the outcome of the research could be. Because his emotions have gotten into it, and he's going to interact with you. If it is he didn't want to tell you, he may even tell you. He may even share more of the information with you. Now, let us research it. If I went there and the person is not my schoolmate, I may be received formally. I may go to the formal structures. I may get my responses all right. But maybe some responses may not be obtained because I'm not received just as you are received. Good. So with the constructivism and the interpretive, they think that the interpretation of the world given by the participants is what you are trying to capture. But note that that interpretation is also value laden, is laden with the person's values, laden with the person's mindset about life, and the person's how the person receives you and perceives you, the researcher. Good. Then we talked about okay. I don't know whether we talked about this, the chairs. Did we get here?
No,
Hello?
Prof.
No,
Yeah.
oh, no, sir, we didn't discuss it.
No,
Okay.
please, we didn't get here.
Okay, good. Then let's continue. So let me just point out, let me just point out a few things. Okay. Okay, good. Now, here like this, you see a chair, and then the chair that you see there may be different types of chairs. If I ask that, what are you seeing? Some of you may tell me you are seeing different categories of chairs. Some of you may even tell me that you are seeing an office, a chair that could be used for a lounge, a chair that can be used for maybe a dinner place, a chair that can be used for to depict royalty, or can be used in an office, executive office. These are the things that you may tell me. But one of the things that could happen here is that depending on the view of the person, let me just use an example. Let me ask, I've mentioned all the possibilities of what you are seeing. Apart from that, all the three, if somebody shows you all the three pictures right now, what comes into your mind? All the three pictures right now, if somebody shows it to you, what comes into your mind? Not one of the pictures at the time. All the three are shown to you at a go. What comes into your mind?
The chair comes into mind.
Chair comes in what?
Into mind.
A chair comes in.
Okay.
I'm asking what
Sitting. Sitting, Prof.
sitting comes into mind. What do you mean by
Prof, mine is job vacancy and leadership position.
good? Somebody is in job vacancy and leadership position. Okay. So you are seeing,
Market,
okay,
selling of shares.
selling of chairs. Okay, so good. Now, the interpretation of the job vacancy and leadership position is more about the attribute you are giving to the chair, that these chairs are used for this. Now, the other person too is saying that the chairs, selling of chairs, is interpreting it based on the fact that he thinks that the chairs are for sale. And usually when the chairs are for sale, a person may show a variety of the chairs, if I'm right. So both of you have got different views of it, but all of you are trying to understand it from the way you understand how you see things in life. It's likely that the person who is seeing chairs are for sale, his mindset, I don't know his background, but if I should investigate, his background could actually inform what you do. So, gentlemen, the one who said chairs are for sale, what's your background like? Have you done, do you own your own shop, or have you done some, are you a marketing student?
Growing up, I used to help my mom in selling it.
You said
She's a
growing up,
petty
you used to
trader.
help your mom sell
Yeah,
stuff.
she's a petty trader. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then good. But I'm talking about right now. That's a very good point.
Right now, I also engage in some small business side.
Okay. But what discipline are you? Accounting or what?
I'm in accounting.
Okay. You see, I went straight to accounting.
Yes.
Yes, because at the end of the day, your background in sales, your background in trade, you are likely to be an accountant, and then what you said can either be for a marketer or an accountant. Okay, then the gentleman who said that leadership position, and listen, what is your current discipline?
Prof is a finance.
Okay, good. And then interesting. Yours is finance, good. And then what's your background in? What do you do
For my
currently? Or what's your background?
Background is that I've been in marketing and I've been trading through my childhood age, and also now I'm a consultant and I meet people at the mostly the top level for the assignment as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, so good. So your experiences kind of shape your answer. You are talking about you meeting different people. So you are seeing leadership position.
Very, very well.
Yeah. And this is actually inform you about how you see the things here. Good.
Thank you very much.
What I'm trying to emphasize here, if I was the researcher, I'm realizing that my respondents, that's you and the gentleman who spoke earlier, are responding based on the interaction that you are having with the phenomenon of study. The phenomenon of study is the chairs I have here. Your current background and your knowledge and your experiences is actually being applied. So your meanings to the chair tend to differ because of what is at play. So what we are trying to say is that the qualitative researcher is trying to look for those meanings that people have attribute to the things we are trying to study, or they share on the things we are trying to study. So that's why the qualitative researcher comes in. And then the interpretive researcher goes more than just looking at the meanings, but he's trying to understand why those meanings tend to exist from those people. Why do you have those type of meanings? Why do they have those types of meanings? And how does the meanings even influence other decisions? Okay. But somebody can also say that apart from that, the chairs can be deeper. What you saw here can be deeper than what all of you said. First of all, somebody is saying here that some chairs are reserved in your society. Okay, which is also like what the gentleman said about leadership position and chairs, and then executive and stuff like that. Now, you may not sit until society has given way before grace is said. That chairs themselves, in wherever you apply them, there's tend to be a culture of how it can be used. So some chairs are there that people cannot sit them until others have sat down. And the other chairs that they don't really mind, it doesn't really matter to them. Okay. And then to be able to sit, you need to internalize the taboos or the context. That's what culture. Why we do what we do why we do what we do in our view or in our meaning. So you are then trying to bring in what the context is and how the context shaped the people's meaning about that particular chair that we are looking at. So the chair is not just a chair; it has other attributes that are tend to become apparent when we start looking at it from the different or the diverse people who are interacting with the chair. So in the social constructivist world, the concept here is that you have to be inductive and you have to understand that whatever you are trying to learn can be emergent. define its major. That means that whatever you are trying to do, if you take a questionnaire, the questionnaire can even change whilst you're on the field. Some new ideas could come and you can have to put them down. And that could even change the way you do the study. Okay. So the purpose is to go beyond observable actions of the people in the context of the social phenomena and understand the subjective meanings they assign to the actions, and thereby interpret those actions and understand the reasons behind those actions. The researcher's intent then okay. So to go beyond observable actions of the people in the context of the social phenomena and understand the subjective meaning they assign to the actions, thereby interpret and understand the reasons behind these actions. Good. The researcher's intent here is to make sense, that's or interpret the meanings. That's why qualitative research is often called interpretive research, because we also try to make sense, but we can go beyond that. Now, let's take it as modernizing the public sector, making sense of different meanings of modernization and how it affects employee support or resistance to modernization program. So somebody can do a research on that and modernizing the public sector, but he will then come from the perspective of trying to establish the different meanings to modernization. Okay, so let's see Derek. Derek had a hand up.
Yes, Prof, I actually had an issue with hearing you. I don't know whether it's your network or generally it's me.
Okay, thank you very much. But you hear me now?
Yes, it's clear now.
Okay, thank you. So the network goes down and comes up. You know how our MTN guide that system. Okay. Good. Let's continue. Now, because of the fact that interpretive has its own view of how the world is seen, they have their own principles too. And the principles tend to underpin their research. Now, I'm not trying to make you an interpretive research. I'm just trying to introduce you to some of the things that are there. The first one is called the fundamental principle of the humanistic circle, that all human understanding is achieved by creating between the independent meaning of parts, the interdependent meaning of parts, and the whole that they form. Little parts in the big picture. So whatever you are interviewing is part of a big picture. So that little part that you are bringing into, you should always see this link to the big picture. And then you should also see the big picture as a combination of the little things that come together. So there's interdependent meaning. The meaning cannot be based on just one interview. The meaning is created when we look at one interview, look at Derek's interview, look at Samuel's interview, look at Hannah's interview, look at Ace's interview, and put them together to tell the story. That's what makes the actual meaning. Because you have done because you have to appreciate that the whole and the parts that can make it up are two different things. So, but they are interdependent on each other. Okay. And part of what you are doing is that you have to appreciate that the human understanding is always an arbitration between these two. Good. Now, the principle of contextualization. Context cannot be removed from the qualitative data or from the data being collected. Good. The next one is the principle of interaction between the researchers and the subjects. Requires a critical reflection of how the research materials, such as data, were socially constructed through the interaction between researchers and participants. Okay, so in here you are trying to ask yourself that to what extent is the data that or the findings that we have kind of socially influenced by the researcher, so that we are very careful that we are not reporting what the influences are, but we are reporting what is supposed to be. Good. So you have to really do that. If you don't do that, you will not be able to identify where there are biases, so you can prove yourself or you can do something about it. Okay. Principle of abstraction and generalization requires that relating the ideographic details reviewed by the data interpretation or details of the individual instances through the application of principles 1 or 2 to a theoretical concept that describe the nature of human understanding and then social action. Don't just tell a story, but find out how it can be relevant to other situations. Okay. So we have got data. We are abstracting the data, trying to simplify it in a way we can understand it. But we also have to understand that when we are simplifying it, we are trying to pick much more things which are comparable. And if we're not very careful, as we simplify it, we may also lose the potential generalization that comes from the study. So if something happens and then we are trying to report it, we always have a kind of a balance between the abstraction and generalization. You can keep on abstracting the data to find out specifics within a data set. But then you can also have to appreciate that that specifics can be nuanced to a particular activity or that thing that happened, not for every issue. So whatever you are trying to do, look at it in the whole. What are we learning? What are we gaining? What knowledge is being transferred here? And then look at it in the individual, maybe the instance of the respondent, and understand what the respondent is trying to say. And that could be very unique to that respondent. For example, when I ask you a question, and I asked a question about the chess, one person was talking about it being about the selling of chess. Now, if I don't narrow down and try to just understand under what conditions the person is saying that, why is the person saying that? I could have just accepted it that, oh, this person said this, so that's the truth. Okay. Now, the challenge with that is that I have a skewed response or understanding because I'm just looking at one thing I saw and I evaluated from the field. I'm taking that one as the given knowledge for the whole thing. That's wrong. If I go and I start digging deeper, I may realize that it happened because X was present or Y was present. So it's not that always this thing will occur. It will only occur when Y or X is present. Okay, good. So we have I've not seen any hand up, so I'll continue. Principle of abstraction and generalization. Then dialogical reasoning requires sensitivity to possible contradictions. Always look at it. Now, these things are for interpreting, but they also apply to other qualitative type of studies that always embrace the fact that there could be other explanations to what you are viewing. It's not just your explanation that tends to be superior. There could be other explanations. There could be other explanations. And you have room to be able to absorb those other explanations. Good. Then the principle of multiple interpretations requires sensitivity to possible differences in the interpretation among participants. And then, among participants among the participants as they are typically expressed in multiple narratives. So I've interviewed you, two people talked. They all gave me different narratives. So and each of them tends to be valid. So what I'm then seeing here is that I have been able to appreciate that there are differences in the interpretation that the two answers were given to me. And it's because of the nature or the type of persons I was dealing with. But if you're able to appreciate that there are not multiple relatives in an issue, what you end up realizing that you may only report only one type of relative, which is the view that you have seen or the view in the MD's perspective. But as you talk to other different people in the organization, you can be able to establish this is really okay. Under what circumstances did it occur? Who are the different people? You end up building a better understanding, giving us richer works if you have, if you are able to embrace that multiple interpretation without creating biases for yourself. Then you also have the last one, the principle of suspicion, that requires sensitivity to possible biases and systematic distortions in the narrative collected from participants. So, sorry for the spelling mistake from participants. Let me give an example. So, for example, if I go to a village and I'm interviewing people concerning the library, good, and the meanings they associate with the library. Now I meet one person and I go and ask the person. The person said that this library is not as good as the other ones I've seen, and he's just on to criticize and say all kinds of stuff, but comparing to what he thinks he has seen. Now, if the person is saying that, and I go on and say, oh, the other person is giving us different views. Maybe what his views may be important because this is the only one saying only the other views. But I go and do research and find out that, oh, This thing I'm talking about, this guy is coming from the other village, and the other village who has a library, and they are bringing funding. So the best village, the one that has better current resources, is the one that will give the funding to. So because the person is trying to make sure that the things diverted to him, he's giving all kinds of funny information, and which may not be true, to be able to create a perception in the mind of bias. Okay. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is that if you take the data and you're not suspicious, asking yourself questions about whether is this true, does it happen all the time, you will end up going to take something that you have picked from the field and as a given truth, but it's not a truth. It is just somebody who has just said something. Okay, good. Now, the next one is the realism and the critical realism dimensions. But let me take some time. Can I take any questions I have about interpretive constructivism and then positivism before we go ahead? Because now it's going to get a little bit more confusing. So should I take questions on the two? Okay, any questions? Okay, I can't see any hand. I may be wrong. I can't see any hand. Okay. Um, Derek, are you guys okay? So I go ahead.
Prof, I am okay, but I can't speak for others.
That's a very good point.
Hello, Prof. Good
Very, very
morning.
good point. Yes.
Yeah, Prof, please, I'm trying to understand how in like your literature itself, in your write-up, how these play out. For example, maybe in saying that, okay, this particular author went east and he found this particular author went west and he found that I want to go north because I see that others have gone there and they also found. Is that is that how it plays out in the actual write-up in your literature review?
Okay, this is not in your literature review. This is actually in your methodology. That's why I gave you my PhD methodology chapter. You see how I put the two together. So let's get the understanding here first, and then we can look at how maybe I structured in my own. Otherwise, you can go and read it. So if you look at my own, you still don't understand how to integrate it into it, then I can answer your question. So you
Yes,
just,
please.
okay then. Thank you. So very, very good point. Very, very good point. So the first one, ontology and epistemology. Now, these are two different worlds or two interrelated worlds, shall I say that, but they are different. Realism and then critical realism. Then sometimes some people say post-positivism, but let's stay with the realism and critical realism. Now, the realists believe that there are multiple interpretations of the world, but that multiple interpretation is the multiple interpretation of a single mind-independent reality. So the realism believes that there is a reality in this world that is independent of your thinking. That thing is there. Upa umpeo is there. Now, it is that independent mind reality. That is the one that people have different perceptions about it. That is the mindset of that's the mindset of the realists. Okay. So realism concerns multiple perceptions about a single mind independent reality. That, what does it draw your mind to? Do you remember positivist? A single mind, a single reality. Now he is saying that that single reality that positively believe in too. He believes in it, but his own, that reality is independent of the person's mind. So I can uncover the reality without actually doing much interaction with the person's verbal responses. Okay, so realism recognizes that the perceptions have a certain plasticity. That means that the perceptions are shall I say, fluid. They are not static. They kind of tend to move or mold in the way they are held concerning the single mind reality that exists, and that there are differences between the reality and the people's perceptions of the reality. Okay, so when we look at look at things from the realism perspective, he is saying that in this world there is a single mind independent reality, that there's a real world there. There's something called the reality. But human beings are not able to appreciate or conceptualize that reality perfectly. So there are multiple perceptions of it. They have got plastic perspective of it. So the human being has got multiple perceptions of the actual reality that exists. Good. That's why I say there's a certain plasticity around it, that you cannot understand the actual reality in 100%. You, the human being, you are incapable of doing that. But what you are capable of doing is having multiple interpretation or understandings concerning the reality that is true, the true reality. Okay. Now, there are differences between that actual reality, which is mind independent, and the perception the people have. So human beings in their mind are always trying to understand reality, but what they end is that they create multiple reality or plastic understanding of the reality, or multiple understanding of the actual reality, multiple perspectives or perceptions about the actual reality. Okay. However, critical realism is different. Critical realism believes that there are two types of worlds. The realism believes that there is one world that is single mind independent reality, and it's your one is green, but you are not able to perceive green, so you see yellowish brown. Somebody also see pinkish brown. Somebody also sees purple yellow. Somebody also red mixed with green, red mixed with white. That is what we see. That is our interpretations of that one is very plastic, so it's not perfect. So we see it as in that plastic form. But that's not what critical realism says. Critical realism says that when you go to the world, what you observe is in the transitive world. That is where you can observe things. And then what you can learn. So the empirical world you are in is called the transitive world. But there is another world, that is the independent world, in the intransitive world, that it exists independent of what your mind thinks. That one exists on its own. It doesn't need permission from you to exist. It exists there, but you cannot be able to understand it very well. So there is a mind. There is a mind that is very, very independent from what you are trying, what we can observe, where we stand and we can observe. Now, the transitive world is what we can observe. The intransitive is independent of what the mind thinks. The transitive world has the perceptions of reality. That perceptions of reality that the realist people have. This guy says it's in the transitive world. That's in the real world. And it tends to be value laden and it's changing continually. That is what the critical realist says, that transitive world that you are in, people have perceptions, just like the interpretive. People have perceptions of that reality, but that reality is value laden, is influenced by people's perception, and that true reality is always constantly changing. Okay, but the intransitive world, where the things that change, that actually work in the world, that cause the world to work, exist. That intransitive world that causes things in the world to exist and have their form and being. That one, the structures and the mechanism there, they are relatively enduring. Things do not change. So the green that you see, you go and see it as green there. And you can even be able to break it down into the two colors that gives you green. Don't need to be struggling in the transitive world to try to understand whatever is going on. Okay. Still, I believe people don't understand it. The CR people believe that there is what is observable and what is not observable. What is observable is in the transitive world. What is not observable is in the intransitive world. Those unobservable structures and mechanisms are independent on the events that they generate. So when you're in the transitive world, you see events, things have happened. Today, somebody came to class late. That is what you can see. He's late. But there is another world that tries to explain or are the structures and then mechanism that cause the guy to be late. But you, the one who is saying he's late, cannot see it. So if you go into the world to understand the students, if you then look at the transitive world, all you see is late comma. But if you go into the intransitive world, you come to understand that his wife has given birth, and then he's managing a baby, and his wife is at the hospital, and he goes to the hospital before he comes to lectures. So those kind of family challenges is what is making him late. But you don't see that until you end up doing inquiry. And then the things that are hidden, that are not observable, are all on earth to you. So your work as a researcher is not to accept what you see in the transitive world, but you always believe that there is something that is causing what I'm seeing to happen. Let me go and unravel it, unearth it. Ask the right questions, use the right methods to unearth, to pull away the veil that covers the real world. The veil that covers the real world that you are not seeing. The world you are seeing is what you can observe, but there's a veil that has covered why it's late. Pull the veil aside and understand why it's late. So that if you address that thing, if you get somebody to sit by the wife, if you support him and give him a better car and all kind of stuff, he can be able to come to lectures early. You querying him in the class will not solve the problem. The problem is about looking at what is behind him and solve what is behind him. That is the critical realism. However, the realism is different. Realism is seeing the guy as late, has come to see somebody late. But there are multiple perceptions about the lateness sitting down. So all the person, this guy cried, but where he pass. So that's what somebody is saying. He seems he went to eat food before coming to class. That's one part of the realism. Another person is saying that this guy doesn't respect the lecture. That's why he always comes late. He doesn't respect the lecture. That's realism. So multiple plastic perceptions about the reality. So he is saying that there is a mind independence. Something has happened, and the people who are looking at it, their mind is independent of why the guy is late. But they don't know. What they know is the plastic perceptions they have about the lateness. However, interpretive person is different. Interpretive has seen somebody who is late. He goes to ask that, what does the lecture mean to you? What does the PhD mean to you? That you can organize your life and come to lecture there. Is the PhD, are you losing meaning for the PhD? That is why you are coming late. That is what the interpretive is doing. He's trying to understand that the value of the PhD to you is what makes you come early or late. So the PhD doesn't mean that much to you. You'll be late. What is the quantitative for Dr. Wusu's group? What are they asking for? The guy is late. What time was he late? He came 2 minutes late. He's late. Which route did he use? He passed through Kaswa and came here. Okay, tick. We know Kaswa has got traffic. So passing through Kaswa is what made him late. That's all. They conclude, then go. That's all. They just add a questionnaire. They just give him a questionnaire. He just tick. Dr. Wusu will not even see him. He just tick. You were late today. What time do you come? You write it down. Where was your route? I'm Kaswa. And then they go and do analysis. Kaswa, lateness, and Kaswa, that's why you are late. That's all. Dr. Wusu doesn't understand that the guy has given birth and the wife is in the hospital. He doesn't know anything. He's not subjective meaning. He doesn't want subjectivity because people's wife can give birth and you can still come early. So he doesn't want subjective. He doesn't understand that subjective. He thinks there's a single reality that is that you are late. That's all. There's nothing. You are late. You're late. There's no ifs about the late. You are late. That is Dr. Wusu's group. But Professor First interpretive group. Oh, you are late. What you are late in the PhD program? Why don't you believe in this course anymore? Doesn't the course mean anything to you? What does the course mean to you when you are coming to the course? What did it mean to you? Has it changed? And that kind of stuff. So it is possible that Professor First Own can actually chance upon the wife issue, but it may not go there. It may chance upon it. But then you come to the realism people. The realism people are saying that 7 people are saying that you are late. And all the 7 people have different reasons why you are late. That's the realism people. Then you come to the critical realism. The critical realism is saying that the guy is late, but there's a reason why he's late. Let us break down the structures of his life. Let us try to understand his life. The critical realist can also ask the same thing. Did you pass through Kaswa? It's because critical realism embraces both realism and critical realism embraces both. They both embrace what's the name? Quantitative and qualitative. That's one good thing about them. They believe in both the two worlds because you see, realism is saying that there are multiple perceptions. And then critical realism is saying there are multiple perceptions. But critical realism is saying that multiple perception is in an erroneous place. They are saying that multiple perception exists in the transitive world, but that's not what is causing the problem. The realism people think that there's a single independent reality that happens while he's late. That one we don't know. We can't even know. But what we know right now, and we are sitting here, is the plastic understandings or plastic perceptions of the reality. That independent one that is there, we don't know. But what we know is the plastic one. The plastic one is what we are able to capture. So we are going to capture the plastic one. So the realism person can do quanti and quali and come to understand. Okay, so where do you live? You live at Kaswa. Three of you in the class. How many people also live at Kaswa? You find out. Why is the people who are other people live at Kaswa come early? You don't come early. So that's the qualitative part of the realism person. The realism person too can look into the literature and find out that students who come to class late are students who don't believe in the lecture anymore or have lost passion for the class. That's what the lecture is saying. So it takes lack of passion. So you ask him, to what extent have you lacked passion for the course? I strongly agree, I disagree, then you tick and go. That's the realism. So the realism is scrutinizing the views and remove invalid explanations. Because you said you are in Kaswa, but there is another guy in the class who is also in Kaswa here. So you're being in Kaswa, it does not matter. We remove it. That is what the realism will do. We'll remove it. We'll scrutinize and remove the Kaswa as there's something more. Then you start believing. So he will try to break down the variables to be able to describe the phenomenon and then find association between the variables. That's what the realism will do. And the realism believe that the cause is what leads to the effect. I hope you understand. So you came from Kaswa. Did you pass through? The other person came straight. You passed by. You passed through Kolebu. Okay, now the Kolebu has come in. So Kolebu is another variable. So there's a mediating variable. You pass through Kolebu. Kolebu is what is cooking. So he would then draw his mind. This thing that the cause could be Kaswa, which passes through Kolebu, it will be late. But the critical realism will not do that. Critical realism is different. He does what we call reproduction. A process of abstraction and digging the layers of truth and break down and explore the mechanisms and put them together. So critical realism is about this. Listen very carefully. In what circumstances is X equal to Y in the presence of T and in the absence of L and in the little presence of Y of P? That is how this is. So he believes that there is X, there's Y, there's T, there's L, there's P. Some of them have to be absent. Some of them have to be there. Some of them may not be there 100%. They'll be there in a small percentage. When you mix it very well, you can get the guy to be late. That is all. Listen very carefully. Critical realism is saying that there is in what circumstance does X equal to P, that the guy become late. There has to be a small presence of passing through Kaswa, going through Kolebu, having a wife who is sick, becoming emotionally trodden, and then having some small traffic, and then the latest will occur. Because he has been able to find all of these things are indirectly related to the whole issue to cause the lateness. He doesn't think that there's one cause. He's trying to look at the mechanisms and the structures. Structures, you see, critical realism believe that in the world that you are looking at for, that world that you don't see, that causes the thing to happen. There are entities in the world. The entities are structured. There's a wife who is connected to the man who is late and is emotionally connected to the person. So when the person is sick, the person's emotions stirs up a liability. In critical realism, they also believe that every person who is an entity has a causality and can cause something to happen, and then can also have a liability, can also be limited by things. So if this guy is connected to another entity who is a wife, and that wife is sick, it becomes a liability. It can becomes one of his limitations or liability that can affect his ability to come to class. But if the wife is not sick, that one does not become it cannot lead to the class lateness. So the critical realist has to look at the causes. He has to look at liabilities. He has to look at what's the name? The entities, and look at the structures between the entities. Then all of it, you have to understand a mechanism. What is the mechanism? The mechanism is what causes the guy to still come to class whilst he knows the wife is sick. Because some people, when their wife is sick, don't come to class, they'll stay at home. But there is something in the guy that, irrespective of whatever it is, he is still trying to find himself and come to class. That's what we call the mechanism. So the critical realism is about looking at the event. The actual event is the outcomes and what is what we saw. The outcome is that the guy is late. That's what we saw in the real world. But in the intransitive world that we don't see, there is an actual event. The actual event is that the wife is in the hospital. Then there is some structures that is causing, you can have somebody in the hospital, if it is your current wife, and your wife is somebody may be married to 3 people. If one of them is in the hospital and it's not the dear one, he doesn't care. He can even leave, okay, I'll come see you after lectures and come back. Some people grapple, if the wife being in the hospital is not a critical situation, he'll come to class before you go. So all of these things have a play that can trigger the occurrence of it. So here what he's saying that instead of you being the realist that looks only cause and effect, find the mechanisms, understand what is happening between the entities and the structures that are around them that is causing the guy to be late. That is what the critical realist will do. When we'll get into this in detail later, so that I can show you a critical realism PhD. I mean, my PhD is a critical realism PhD, so you may see. Even the time I did it, I was in the shallow level of critical realism. There's another paper I have where I have a deeper level of critical realism. If I show it to you, understand what I'm talking about. Yes, let us take questions now. Because I realized I've confused people, and I made it worse. So, so please, I need to drink some water. So as I'm drinking water, please ask questions.
Okay, Prof. This is Derek. So I wanted to take you back to the picture you showed, and then try and then see whether I'm thinking alongside the critical realist. So I don't know whether I can move just slightly back to where the 3 chairs were.
Derek, please let me take your question again. I beg. I was drink. I have to get up for the water.
Okay, Prof, I just wanted us to go back to the 3 chairs that you showed. I want to see whether I'm thinking along the critical realism if I'm trying to describe the chairs. If it will make sense. If it will make sense to you.
No. Okay. I'm coming. Oh, sorry.
Prof, like this first chair, I'm seeing a wooden structure made of a chair there. So that's the first thing I'm seeing. But in actual sense, I'm also thinking of what the person was thinking. Is it the person is designing the chair according to culture, or is looking at an economic factor? in terms of using a local resource. Whether the person is also a traditional craftsman or in a region where the resource is wood. That's why I decided to design a chair like that. And then I think the one that looks like a relaxing chair, the white one with the leather covering. I'm seeing a comfortable design chair. And then from the perspective of the critical realist, I'm seeing the intention to use in terms of relaxation and then his well-being. At the same time, I'm seeing understanding, like to understand that the person appreciates leisure, like leisure to relax. So in a broader sense, he's looking at the importance of relaxation or a self-care in modern society. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know whether it makes sense in terms of the explanation.
Okay. Let me hear from somebody else before I answer that one.
Hello, Prof.
Yes, that's one.
Yeah, my own has to do with the statement by Churchland in 1979, perceptions having a certain plasticity. I wanted to know, I wanted to explain my understanding of it so you would tell me whether I'm thinking right or not. We look at plastic to actually take shape of whatever mold we put it into, which means that it can be molded into different shapes and sizes depending on what kind of situation we put it into. So if it is hot, it melts and then takes the shape of anything. When it cools down, it has its own shape it takes. So if our perceptions are mostly shaped by what we have faced in life, then it means that it is true what he's saying, that the perceptions about reality might not be the real world, because then our perceptions will be like the plastic, where it can be shaped by different situations that we have been faced with. Like the example you were giving about, not even the example per se, but like that popular saying that "Obia or Canada, So when somebody has been bitten by a snake before, whenever the person sees a worm, there's that fear. So the person's perception about the reality, which is the worm, might be different from what is real, based on what the person has faced before. That is, has shaped the person's line of thinking or the person's perception about the reality. I don't know if maybe I might be thinking right.
Okay, so let me show you something from in about 10 years ago, when this course was taken by Dr. Shina Boateng in marketing. She created this table from her understanding of all of these things, and it's in one of her books, and it's also been in some of my books too. Okay, so first of all, let's take the realism that you are talking about. Reality is real, but imperfectly and probabilistically apprehensible. That means that there's nobody in this world, in terms of realism, people in the world cannot perfectly conceptualize the world. So triangulation from many sources is required to try to know it. That's why you see there are multiple versions of it, and that's what I mean with plastic. It's very, very fluid in nature. In the same way, the realists believe that they are value aware. They understand that value exists, but they don't think that the things that you see in the world is value laden. That they are aware or cognizant that people have value that is actually can influence their thinking. But they're not saying that everything in this world that they are seeing is value laden, but they are aware of it. That the views of the people in the room there concerning the guy who is late, it can come from their own understanding of how they would see the situation. So findings are probably true. That means that the findings you are getting from the people who are in the room, who are interpreting the lateness, is probably true. It's not true. It's probably true. The researcher needs to triangulate any perception collected and test them, and eliminate those which are not one, scrutinize them, and then be able to find what is true. That is how the realists believe, and that is what you saying, that it is plastic in nature. So it is saying that Social phenomenon is understood through hypotheses, which are tested to establish patterns of association, and hence most possible explanation. The realist person is always looking for the most possible explanation, not that he has the best or the actual explanation has been discovered. The most possible explanation that will fit it here. So they use what we call hypothetical deduction. However, let's come to the one that this gentleman was talking about. What's his name? Derek. Derek's view is that from the in fact, there's relativism. I've not even come to that one. I'll come to that later. Let's look at Derek's view is that there are two wells, intransitive and transitive. The transitive is what we observe and learn with our mind. So when you come to school and we're sitting here, all the things you are doing, you are learning transitive world. But you people don't understand the intransitive world, what actually underpins my thinking and understanding, and why I teach this particular course this particular way. Do you understand me? It is out of interview with Richard, going to know who did I do my PhD in, who was my PhD supervisor, what is the ethos of my PhD supervisor, what kind of thing did he imbibe in me in University of Manchester that has given me this a different mindset that if we give this same course to another person to teach, this topic, sorry, to another person to teach, you may not get it the same way as Prof is teaching it, because maybe Prof went into a particular certification course on just philosophy or just paradise, but the other person didn't go to. But you will not know that until you start looking at it. So there is a reason why when you look at this person, he teaches philosophy, you understand it one way, but when you hear this other person, you hear it differently. Why? Because of the fact that there is something which is different. Now, the perceptions of so all that you see in the transitive world is perceptions of reality. The intransitive embodies the real reality you are looking for, which is independent of what the mind thinks. So when you are doing research, find that real one. But he's also arguing that the transitive world that you live in, that you are observing, Professor Boateng, is value laden and it is changing continually. The same thing that the realist people also say, that the realist people say, it is very plastic. That thing is very plastic. That world that you are all observing is very, very plastic. And that's why it's called critical realism. Critical realism is just it's taking the realism to a different level. That's all. They are brothers and sisters, and they say, but they are taking the realism to a different level. Then he's saying something here that the intrinsic world has underlying structures and mechanisms that are relatively enduring. They stay, they don't change. So if you want to study something and find out what is causing what you are observing, and to bring a perfect solution to societal problems, find out the real causes, find out the actual events, find out the real triggers, and those ones are the intrinsic world. Good. So you, the researcher, your methodology is to deconstruct the world and understand the structures and mechanisms that underlie the subjective reality that exists. What you are seeing in the reality, in the real world, is subjective. So you have to deconstruct it and break it down so that whatever is causing it to happen, you will know. Triangulation from many sources is required to do this, and retroductive reasoning is what will guide you. Okay. But the realism person understands it by he thinks there are possible realities. So he has about 7 hypotheses about how the thing is working. And you try and test the hypothesis and choose the most plausible one. That's all. That's what the realist will do. I recently had a student who was studying robotics and using realism. If you are listening to his PhD presentation, you understand it very, very well. Because I heard about, I think, almost 20-something, was it 18 or 17 hypotheses about the phenomenon. Because he's a realist. He has seen all the possible ones and he's seen that he's going to test and see what will work. Okay. I'm not saying that go to the literature, go and take 27, this and then say that they ask you that why do you have 27 hypotheses? Professor Usu asks you, and tell Professor Usu is because I'm a realist. And you just go from your realist, just lump 27 hypotheses. No, it doesn't really work like that. All hypotheses have to be built from a grounded understanding of what is happening in the literature, which is the previous reality. I'll talk about that later. What the literature is a previous it's a previous reality. We'll talk about that later. Now let's look at one more, realism, which is relativity or relativism, which is in marketing is one of their dimensions. Some of in information system we don't talk about relativism, but some people use relativism. Remember, we are all drawing from social sciences, so it's not all our researchers that pick it. So you will not see that one in information, but you may see it in marketing and in other courses. So relativism says that multiple realities exist. Reality as a truth is not absolute. It is relative. It is independent upon something, and it does exist. So he said that multiple realities exist. That reality as a truth is not absolute. That reality that we are trying to is not an absolute thing, like concrete thing that we can find, like the positivist thing. It is relative, and it's dependent on something, and it does exist. So there are multiple realities, and that multiple realities about the reality we are trying to about what we are trying to study. It's not that reality we are trying to. It's not absolute because there are multiple versions of it, and the multiple versions of it exist because of something. Okay. The interpretation of the world requires some form of human processing. The human knowledge is influenced by the worldview and the research paradigm of the researcher. Then the construction of the knowledge is influenced by the worldview and the research paradigm of the researcher. That means that the human mind is needed to be able to interpret the world. That's how the reality is, and be able to understand what are the conditions that causes the reality to happen. That's what he's trying to say. It depended on something. So researchers should focus more on creating and developing more useful theories and useful solutions to specific problems. Now, one of the things that relativism researchers argued is that all these paradigm discussions and things doesn't solve anything in the world. That's what they were asking. You do all these plenty arguments, you're not solving any problem in the world. The argument was that whatever it is, find useful theories that will address specific problem. Don't just be doing be drawn by all these jargons of and then this is my ontology and all those kind of stuff. No matter what you are doing, have we solved the problem in the world? That is what it is asking. The researchers should focus more on creating and developing more useful theories that are more applicable, not theories that are hidden in philosophy and they cannot be applied. That's what its argument is. And then are useful to solutions in a specific problem. Useful solutions to specific problem. So that is the dimension that we are seeing. So coming back to Desmond, sorry, is it Derek? Derek. Now to address the thing you saw here, this is my advice for you. You didn't establish what is the context of your site. If you want to be a good critical reader, what is the context of your site? Because the thing you are seeing, under what circumstances are you seeing? Are you seeing it as a carpenter? Are you seeing it as a student? Are you seeing it in the mall? Are you seeing it see it in the rich man's office? Are you seeing the rich man's house? Where are you seeing it? And what context are you seeing it in? That is the one that comes first before you can start your interpretation. Did you understand it?
Yes, Prof, I get it.
Good. So you see, let me say something for the critical realist. The issue you are trying to solve let's say that the critical realist is trying to understand why there's an impasse in parliament concerning this, and he's a public admin student, and he's trying to study parliamentary jurisdiction and Supreme Court jurisdiction. He's studying it as a student, trying to get his PhD. The way he's seeing it will be very different. And his inquiry process will be thorough in a particular way. But if he was not that, and he was a lawyer doing the work as a law person to come up with certain findings, it could also change. It could also change. Why? Why am I saying that? You are seeking to deconstruct and understand the structures and mechanisms underlying the subjective realities that exist. That method of a process of deconstruction and understanding the structures and mechanisms. If you are a student, you have got what you can be able to do. If you have completed and you are what's the name? A lawyer, your mindset and thinking will be very different. So let us put them into context. When you say somebody should go and deconstruct the world, is it deconstructing from the student perspective? He's a student. Is it deconstructing from an ambassador of IS perspective or ambassador of marketing perspective? Students who go and choose, if you are a critical realist and you are go and choose something that sits in between two disciplines, you have to be very careful. Because you have to understand how critical realists see the thing in the discipline A and how critical realism see the thing in discipline B. So you can have a better picture of the whole issue. Now, I'm not saying that critical realism is what you should go with. I'll teach you what influences the choice of a paradigm later. Because I'm not reached anywhere. Okay. But we are getting closer to today's end of today's session. So let's continue. So please, that's what Derek, have I answered you?
Yes, Prof. I get it.
Okay, let's continue.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, there is also what we call critical realism and post-positivism as imposing imposing structural laws and theory does not respond to marginalized individuals and groups. So that was the argument that the advocacy paradigms came with. Critiques interpreting for not advocating for action to help the individuals. So the advocacy group criticizes two things. They criticize the realism and then the positivism and post-positivism people with the mindset that they are just giving the structural laws and theories about the way they instrument the world. And then they also criticize the interpretive that even if they are able to uncover what people are going through or the individuals and their meanings, they don't give them any form of action or empowerment to address the issue. So the ontology of the advocacy groups is that advocacy paradigms is that injustice and marginalized groups and individuals exist in reality and need advocacy. Research also contains an action agenda for reform and a specific plan for addressing the injustice of the marginalized group. So the researchers' knowledge is created when we have been able to create a solution to a means of empowering this marginalized group or means of addressing the challenge that they face. So your knowledge is not perfect or is not accepted if you have not been able to create a solution for them or a means of addressing the injustices that they face. Methodology. In practice, this worldview is shaped by several approaches to inquiry. Advocacy researchers engage participants as active collaborators in the inquiry process. So in the aim of advocacy research is to create a political debate and discussion so that change can occur. So to some extent, some of these advocacy paradigms will draw on action research, which always allows you to be able to become a participant with a co-participant of like the actors become a co-participant of the co-researcher in the study, and then they help you to be able to address the issue and find solutions, implement the solution, and see whether it will work. That's what you see in the advocacy type of paradigms. Then the pragmatists tend to believe in the trust or focus more on the outcomes of the research, the action, the situation, and consequence of inquiry, rather than the antecedent conditions, as is in positivism. So pragmatism is not committed to only one philosophy or reality. Truth is what works at the time. It's not based on the dualism of there's a mind-independent reality or there's a reality that works in the mind or the mind is independent reality. You see, those who think that there's a mind and there's an independent reality apart from what there's an independent reality which exists are those who are in the realism and the realism perspective. But these people don't believe in those kind of stuff. Neither do they believe that there's a single concrete reality, or neither do they believe that there is multiple interpretations of reality. All that they say is that what will work at that time is what will work. If we see that there are multiple people, multiple views of the situation, multiple realities to work, we go with that. Pragmatist researchers look at what and how the research based on the intended consequences, where they want to go with it. So they look at what are we trying to achieve? What will work is what we apply. The pragmatists agree that research always occurs in a historical, social, political, and other contexts. But they believe that we should stop asking questions about reality and the laws of nature. The laws of nature is asked by a positivist, and simply seek to change the phenomena. So we should just focus on the change we want to bring and not about these laws and then who is concrete, single concrete, or not single concrete, or whatever it is. Let it, that they don't care. Methodology. The methodology of the critical realists is that they embrace, and the realists is that they embrace both quantitative and qualitative. However, for the pragmatists, they think that the individual researcher has freedom of choice. You can choose whichever method or technique that will work. So if they think that qualitative will work, they will use this one. If they think that quantitative will work, they will use one. They focus on the practical implications of the research. There's no money for us to collect more data. So let's just use qualitative. Then we go. That's all. That's it. I say pragmatism. Some people argue that it's one of the laziest approaches to research. Because anything that doesn't work, so I'm a pragmatist. Please don't go and choose pragmatism. You may end up filling your PhD. Because if you don't take care, you will not think through any of your choices in your PhD. Everything they ask you, say, oh, this is what will work. That's why I choose it. This is what will work. That's why I choose it. It's the easiest way to get away with a lot of research laziness. I'm not saying that those who are doing research, that research is lazy. I would say it's the way of getting away. Okay. Then we have got the interpretive communities. It's a bunch of people who are in represent the underrepresented, the marginalized, whether they are in the form of gender, class, religion, sexuality, or geography. So there is the postmodernists, the armchair radical, who focus on criticizing the ways of thinking rather than calling for action based on these changes. Who focus their critics on changing the ways of thinking rather than calling for action. We call them the armchair radicals. So they will see them and they will say, oh, critical racism doesn't work. This one doesn't work. But tell us what works, then it's another issue. They know how to write series of critiques on this one. They don't accept this one. They don't accept the view of the positivists. They don't accept the view of this one. But tell them which one is what can we use it to address the current situation. They can't tell us. Then there is the feminist theories. Okay, now you know that. The centrality of gender in shaping our consciousness. The aim of this ideological research is to correct both invisibility and distortions of female experience in ways relevant to ending the women's unequal positions in society. So recently I wrote a paper which is coming out in one of my books on AI, and I wrote the paper as what is the gender of AI? Very interesting paper of trying to understand what is the gender of AI and answer the question. Now, that paper, somebody can say that this one is a Prof. It's not it's not a feminist paper. The way I've written the paper. So, what is the gender of AI? If the paper is, when the paper comes out, I'm hoping the book will come out before the end of January next year. So if it comes out, I can take the chapter and show it to you so I can understand what is the gender of AI. You can understand a feminine my attempt of writing a feminist type of paper. I don't know whether it is that's what I did, but I didn't even focus on the feminism. I just wrote it as what the gender of AI. Okay. Critical theory and critical race theory. These perspectives are concerned with the class, and I've seen this one. There are a number of development NGOs that fund research in this area. They fund it. There's a lot of money. They look at racism in educational settings in the US, and then the allocation of resources between different races in the community, and how the different resources and access to resources affect the opportunities that are for a particular race or a particular class or a particular gender in society. That's what you see them happen. The perspective concerned with empowering human beings to transcend the constraints placed by them by race, gender, and then grace. Then there's a queer theory that questions the idea of human sexuality, the idea that identities are not fixed and do not determine who we are. It is part of this research that has now created problems that people say identify as a cow, identify as a car, identify as a house, identify as an animal, identify as a cat. You have a human being who says he identifies as a cat, so you should treat it as a cat. This is very, you are laughing. This is the truth too. By the time it comes, somebody say you identify as Zoom. He is Zoom. So we should treat him as Zoom. But right now, I think President Trump says he's going to cancel all these funny identities so that we can have male and female streamlined in America. Because it was becoming somebody say I identify as a bus. And the problem is that when you go to school, when the children go to school, you can't put them in any category. You have to allow them to identify. So you are teaching somebody and say that, so say, oh, he identifies as a cat. So he wants to answer the question by saying meow, meow. You can't do anything about it. This is a level of absurdity is where we're getting into. In the main, no, I'm trying to
It's
say,
serious, old Prof.
yeah, with the mindset of trying to embrace everybody. I remember a place that I was working in, and they said somebody came and said that he neither identify as male and female. So which washroom should you use? And the manager looked at his face. This was UK. I said, please choose the one you want to use. But if he says anything, he's wrong. So he doesn't want to use his mouth to say anything. So you choose what you want to use. I hope you understand me. Because you are saying that which of the washroom should you use? And you are this, you say you identify as that. So what should he tell you? To go here. If he goes here, you say he's fighting your rights. If he goes here, he tells you go here, he's fighting your personality or something. So he said, choose the one you think you want to use. That's all. Then the manager stepped aside. Because he can't answer the question. This is where it was getting to. And even in filling forms, people are writing that I choose not to declare. Because right now we got to the place that people didn't want to declare because they doesn't want to be victimized by it, so they don't declare. But the idea that identities are not fixed. So this is where it is coming. Look at this. The term was coined by Teresa de Laurentiis. I think this is France. If identities are not fixed, so how will a country plan if they want to do? We are doing AIDS campaign, or we are doing a hospital is buying things for people in terms of supplies, and they are male and female or something like that. You say so because people don't identify as this, which one are we buying? And you create problems for a lot of the people. But this is what we have, and there are researchers who are into this. In fact, there's more money in the last one than any other place. So if you want to become rich as a researcher, go for use queer theory and queer this thing in your research. You get a lot of money. So what influences your choice so that I can wrap up, so that the finance students can go? Number one, it is start from your own belief of the world. Your own belief of the world. How do you see the world? How do you see the world? You, the individual. How do you see the world? Before the class started, everybody has a view of how you see the world. Now, then your topic of interest. Some topics of interest in terms of research leans towards a particular type of methodology or a particular type of questioning line. So it leans more to either interpret, like it can lean towards one philosophy because of the way you are questioning the world. Now, some areas of research too are very acceptable for a particular type of study because of the level of knowledge. Now, when we don't have much knowledge about an area, we usually go very exploratory. So in that exploratory form, very positivist type of research, which is quantitative based, cannot work. You need more qualitative type of study. So that's why there's post-positivism. Those who think that you can still do a qualitative research and then it's positivist in nature. So they even have their own positivist case study. Those are the post-positivism. They are still thinking that the world can be seen as concrete, and you can also use a kind of a qualitative approach to also look at it. But a pure positivist cannot go and do exploratory type of study, which has to do with inquiring what the people think, unless he wants to quantify that one too. And that one is up to the person. So some of the areas of study, it is very, they are very in their nascent stage, they are not gaining understanding. So we need to establish the perceptions or understanding that exist. So qualitative tend to be more approachable in that study. So instead of qualitative, then many of the qualitative paradigms may work. The quantitative paradigm, pure quantitative paradigm, may not be acceptable in that area. That's what I'm trying to say. Lastly, the range of skills the researcher has. Not everybody is strong with qualitative. Some people don't like reading text. They want numbers. They want, like, I'm not saying that all accountants are positivists. There are accountants who are interpretive. Like Professor Simpson is an accountant who is interpretive. He does qualitative research. And I think Dr. Cletus Ajenim Boati is also interpretive. I think so. It also does qualitative research in accounting. So don't say that because I'm accounting or finance, I'm going to be positivist or post-positivist or realistic. No. I'm trying to point to you that you have to understand the paradigm and understand why you lean towards a paradigm. Now, there are also faculty who don't understand the paradigms. So they don't try to emphasize on this. Whatever you write to them, they'll say, okay, they accept. But because they don't understand the paradigm, they don't know how to check your work and tell you that whether you are adhering to the dimensions of the paradigm or not. For example, when I was doing my master's long essay, I was interpretive. So I did my work in an interpretive way. When I started my PhD, I thought I was interpretive. So I started doing my work interpretive way. When I wrote my first few chapters, and I took my supervisor said, this is not interpretive work. The question you are asking, the way you have many diagrams pointing at this, trying to establish causality and why this one is working, so this one links with this one, you are doing something that is called critical realism. So go and read, or realism, go and read about those areas and choose one. Because there are a lot of diagrams even in your literature review and different chapters you have done. Number two, you are also asking question of why does this one, how do firms gain and sustain become successful and gain and sustain benefits in the midst of their constraints. You are asking about how firms are able to challenge the existing resource scarcity and become successful. You are challenging that part. So that challenging part is all criticizing reality. If you are criticizing reality, you cannot be interpretive. Because the question you are asking is not an interpretive question. So sometimes the question you are asking as a student is not interpretive or interpretive. So that's what to lead you. Thank you very much for today. Me, myself, I think I've learned something new. Okay. Any questions? So I mentioned that the choice of paradigm, first, the philosophical beliefs about the reality. The researchers argue that different approaches of research allow researchers to understand different phenomena and different reasons. Hence, the choice of research paradigm and its related methodology depends on questions being asked rather than a commitment to a particular paradigm. Have you heard? These 96. Number two, number three, the second one is what I read. Number three, the level. Okay, so some topic is yet to gain maturity. A field of research may begin with qualitative interpretive approaches and later move towards a quantitative positive approaches. And it happens that way. Sometimes, if you read like the evolution of marketing, you see the marketing began with some qualitative and went to quantitative and came back to qualitative again. Four, the abilities and limitations of the researcher. Some researchers don't like mathematics, so you can't push them to quantitative areas. So that's what it is. Good. So please, I'll finish. The finance students can leave if they need be, but I'll finish. Any questions? Every paradigm has a set of guiding principles and philosophical assumptions. And you have to know and understand them. And every paradigm has its approach to research. Get to know the steps and checklists that make sure they're incorporated in your research process. Okay. So from the next week going, we start taking each part, maybe one paradigm for positivist, and we go through it and how it applies. Then we take another paradigm again another time, and we go through it and see how it applies. Okay, please.
Thank you, Prof. We are struggling to understand them, but I know with you all will be okay, sir.
Okay, then. Thank you. Also,
Yeah, Prof.
go ahead.
No. What he said is what making me laugh. He's trying to understand it. Yeah, so try to understand it. It's part of life, as Prof said. So as for the confusion, people are in their year 4 and they are so confused. Dr. Bano is here, and then I think Zelda and other PhD candidates are here, and ask them if they have gone through 4 years and whether they are not still confused or not. Zelda, are you now, clear, or you are still confused?
Doc, uh, I'm getting better.
So you are in which
The
year now?
conclusion is third year.
Third year, okay. So somebody in your year, I mean, week 2 of lectures, and then you are telling me you are trying to understand. So that's what is making me laugh, Prof. So it takes time. Definitely, everything will be fine. But like I was telling the guys yesterday, that when you start, you think, oh, you want to finish and blah, blah, blah. You try to put in a lot of effort here and there, but that's not the essence. My main focus is you have to go through what, Prof is doing and whatever we are going to do and try to, read a lot and be well grounded, because there have been a lot of PhDs that they are there, but you see that they are not being, impactful because they want the shortcut way. So that's for the shortcut way. You can get people who can assist for you to write your thesis. You come for Viva, people can assist you and you pass your Viva. But you see that you yourself, you have the title, but you are not, well grounded. And you fumble anywhere you find yourself. So take your time, go through this. Prof is saying, go and read this, go and do this, go and do that. Try your hands on those things and forget about the thesis craft for now. You're reached nowhere. So after the year 2, where you are done with the coursework, with your probably the experiential learning and all those things, then things start to be more clearer. And then yes, you can now focus on what you want to do. So, Prof, that's the letter I will say, for today. Thank you very much for the thing.
The finance student, whenever it's 11:30, you can move and go. We are recording the session, so when we finish, you can still have the latter part. There is always going to be just question and answer. So the finance students, please, you can all leave and go. Allow us to continue our class, like for about 5 or 10 minutes after, so that when you get the record, you can play that part in this. Okay. Can critical realism ever be studied since the intransitive is independent of the human mind? Richard Otu. The intransitive is independent of the human mind. The realism too also says that there is a single independent reality. And that's your mind cannot understand it, but you can only see perceptions of it. Critical realism says that you can only uncover what is happening in the intransitive world if you can apply the appropriate research methods to be able to interrogate the real world, the one you can cover.
Prof, I have a question. With pragmatism, I think looking at some of the textbooks, what Creswell said against what other scholars said. Usually, you say pragmatism is not a paradigm. Can you throw more light on that? Because the latter part, if you go to the previous slide before this, when you were talking about some will start with qualitative research and then go to quantitative, or they will start with quantitative and then continue with qualitative.
No, I was saying, I understand you, but that one I didn't say that too. I was saying that making choice of paradigm, some areas of study, the researchers will start from qualitative, interpretive approaches. Then later, the maturity will come in the area of study, and positive researchers will be attracted to the area. So if you go and say that this topic in IS is for a quantity, is positivist type of topic, you are lying. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing the sentence clear now. But what I'm trying to say is a situation where.
Let me address your question now. So let's go to pragmatism questions. Now, pragmatism have a freedom of choice. There's nothing of a choice, and they don't subscribe to any one system of philosophy and reality. So it's not a philosophy or reality. They don't subscribe to any of them. So when they are doing something, they can say that they are taking, for this issue, they are taking an interpretive perspective to do it. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It doesn't mean that they are going to interpret it throughout. What will apply? So they don't.
Prof, so where I'm coming from, maybe let me land, then you get me. I don't know if it's Creswell or one of the textbooks. They rather said pragmatism is more or less about mixed method, whereby you start with, qualitative and you end up with quantity, or you start with quantity and you end up with quality. That's where I'm coming.
That's not what they said. They said that because they don't subscribe to anything, they can start from something and go and end with something, in which it's not acceptable in a particular philosophy line. So let me give you an example. You cannot have an interpretive person who starts as interpretive and end up giving you hypothesis and confirming hypothesis. It's not done interpretively. It's rejected. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So, but a pragmatist can start with a single relative view of the world, and then still go and do multiple use qualitative techniques to collect that data. That's what I'm trying to say. That the pragmatist it doesn't subscribe to anything. There's freedom of choice at every step. So their work is that's why you are calling the mixed method. Their work is rewriting. They mix everything. It's not mixed method. They mix everything. That's not mixed method. It being free to choose doesn't mean what
you said their work is what?
In tree, I use the tree one, but I'm trying to say they mix everything. It's like somebody who says that he's trying to cook a ben quine with like the like good like what they do some of the top what they do like the proper chop bars. All the meat inside. So you want fish, they can pull it out. You want meat, you want kutojwe, they can pull it out. That same soup. You sometimes wonder how all the meat is inside. But you go to another chop bar. The soups are there, but there is one light soup that they are cooked with the meat inside. So if you want chicken, then they take the chicken from that soup, the chicken thing that they are cooked, and they come and put it into the chicken soup, warm it for some time, and then tell you that they are giving you this is your chicken. Then they'll also pull another one. If you say you want something, then they'll pull it from another bowl and come and put it inside. So the soups that are there don't have any meat in them. They move the meat around depending on what meat you want. I don't know whether I've seen that type of chop bar before.
Oh, there are several. I'm giving you even an example. We have a bed cutting, whereby a ben there's in Katia, there's contumely, all of them mixed. So whet some people's appetite. I can see some people are coming to ask questions, so maybe they should take over. I'm just trying to wear the appetite to, speak. So Joshua, you are there, Kingsley, Benjamin. So
Prof, I want to ask the explanation of the pragmatism. Does it mean they can initially prepare a questionnaire to go to the field to collect data, and when they get there, they can decide to rather go and then do interviews instead of their initial plan of using questionnaire to collect the data? Is that the case? Thank you.
No, you see, that's why. You see why I say don't go pragmatism. You are mixing out sound research principles. How can you say that you are doing a questionnaire question and going there you turn a questionnaire into maybe?
Yeah, I'm asking that because you said for them they said everything goes. So
no,
whatever
you are mixing two things. So you are mixing two things. Be careful. You are mixing two things. If you choose do your research design and you are going to the field and you are having a qualitative questionnaire, you go and interview guide. You go and ask questions on the interview guide. But if you don't want to do the interview guide anymore, you want to go quantitative, then change the thing to quantitative and go and use it.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, the soundness of your methodology will fall apart, whether you're pragmatist or whatever it is. And this is one of the reasons why Dr. Wusu, I say that students shouldn't be advised to use pragmatism. It's a lazy way students do research. If you, as a researcher, Dr. Wusu is doing it, Professor Wusu, doing it, I don't have a problem because of where you are now and the choices you can make. But a student doesn't look at what he's telling us right now. You go to the field. I went with a qualitative questionnaire, interview guide, but when I went there, I chose to. Then all of a sudden, I changed my mind and I'm doing quanti. So where is your hypothesis? I just created something from the air and I administered quanti. So quanti means that you have to have multiple questions going to. You have to have variables, and the variables have to have measures. The measures, where do you select them from? Proper quantitative study from what Dr. Wusu will tell you is that you should go into the literature and look for the scale of measurement for the variable. So then how did you go to the field and then improvise and turn it and create your own measures? Your measures, what is it comparable to? It's not comparable to anything. So you cannot just modify yourself in the middle of the study and say you have changed yourself. If you are changing, change it based on sound scientific principles. The fact that you are doing, that's why I say pragmatism is not a philosophy. Look at what they are saying. They say they don't subscribe to it. They can choose anything. If I choose to use positivism and I'm doing it positively, that's what I'm doing as a pragmaticist right now. But if you ask me questions on it, I'll say that, oh, I chose a positivist dimension to do the work. It doesn't mean that pragmatism, in my view, it doesn't mean that pragmatism is a philosophy. You chose to use that one in a particular way. Let me give an example. You know that the cars that we have right now, somebody can go to Abusokan and then you have got maybe something broken in your engine. Your car is maybe Volvo, but they go and buy something from Toyota and come and fit it your car, it works. That if they put that small Volvo thing into your car, that's your car, which is a small Toyota thing into your car. The car that is Volvo, does it become Toyota? No. Even though you are using a Toyota part, it doesn't make your car a Toyota. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So if somebody is picking something from positivism to go and do his work, he's using it to get the work done. He's a pragmatist, but that doesn't mean that he's a positivist. That pragmatism that he belongs to is the way he wants to do the research. Not that because it's not a philosophy that has its own assumptions, because they don't have any assumptions. They just pick and mix people's assumptions and need to do their work. I don't know whether I can still explain myself, but please let me hear from
Thank
others.
you.
Okay. Should you be a disciple of a paradigm before undertaking your research, or should you find a fit for the paradigm that suits you in front? Okay, this one I told you earlier. I told you that depending on the study you are doing, you could actually choose to be of a particular paradigm. I mentioned this is what I was talking about. Your philosophical beliefs, the different approaches in the research to understand different phenomena, and then the maturity of the topic, and then the limitation of the researcher. Yeah, sometimes the things that you want to study has a lot of mediation in it and stuff. You can never use a qualitative approach to handle it. You still need a quantitative approach to that. That's if you're interested in those mediations and trying to understand the relationship between the mediator and the rest of the things you are doing. Okay, now to also have finished though. I want to end here.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Francis Annan, we didn't hear anything from you. And the NS2, we didn't hear the Florence Newman. Juan Benson. Papa, okay. Noah.
Papa.
Manaf, today we didn't hear from you. Larry.
Hello, Prof.
Yeah.
Prof, you are trying to internalize what we've just,
Prof.
we've just studied. So,
Hello, Prof.
Yeah.
We're with you all the way.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prof,
Yes, you are saying something. You said, Prof, I was.
Prof, I asked the question because it appears as if
You asked a question. What question do you ask?
I type it in the chat.
Please, I didn't even know. Sorry, I didn't even know.
Yeah, I wanted to ask. It appears as if you can be like, say, you are a realist, and then that defines your trajectory throughout your research. That is the kind of feedback I'm getting. That okay, I am a realist, and so because of that, I would choose a topic that is in line with me being a realist, and that informs my research all the way through. That's the kind of feedback I'm getting from today's class.
No, that's not the truth. That's not the truth.
Okay.
It is more about your worldview, first of all. Your worldview may give you some direction about how you see the world and then how you appreciate knowledge at this creation. That one can guide you on how to be able to make a choice. Number two is also about the area of research you are researching on. Now, as a PhD student, some of the things, like I told you, I was doing something interpreting. My supervisor saw it and said, what you are doing is more in critical realism because of the type of question you're asking. That is one. Because of the way you are even doing relationship and causalities with your diagrams. That is two. So a person looking at the work will say, your mind is thinking like a critical realist, it's not thinking like a interpretive. Do you understand me?
Yes.
And he could do that because he was my supervisor. He could see how my mind was thinking. And me, I just come from master and I was doing my PhD. And what do I know? On my master's, I learned about interpretive and I use it to write. So I thought when you choose one style, you stay in it throughout. He said, no, don't do that.
Okay.
So the area you are, the type of research you are doing, the type of question you're asking can lean you towards the type of answer, a type of research quest. So someone like Prof. You see most of the work he's doing, he'll be asking questions like, why do this? Why do public sector, why do public sector institutions deploy the digitalization? Mm, and what is the impact on it, or what meaning just something like that. So when you say almost all the what students will come, they have a question on the why, and then the next question will be either how or yes, the how. So because they are trying to do an interpretation of the people's view about the thing that they are trying to do. But if you come to my type of study I do in critical realism, we are always questioning and criticizing the reality. So the questions we ask, even sometimes the question itself that we're asking has too much dimensions in it. And it shows you that we are even going straight to a critical realism approach. Now, it is too early for us to discuss the question and then the paradigm. I'll do that by using different PhDs work, and then you can see the difference. I appreciate the differences.
Okay, Prof.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So go and read my chapter 5. You'll get a better understanding, especially in the early upper aspect of it. When I was making the choice for critical realism, go and read it and you appreciate it. Then next we can
Yes.
we can take it out from there, where we start
Sure.
looking into other choices and how it informs the research approach. Okay.
Okay, Prof.
Now, this is the actual philosophy to know. This whole course is based on these 2 sessions I've taught you the last 2 weeks. So anytime we are going to go and offer it, if we talk about research problems, we'll come back here. We'll come back to your paradigm. We talk about research questions, come back to your paradigm. So please, I beg you, understand this thing very well so that when we layer it with other things, you can appreciate it. You can identify research problems, but the way you couch them as a research question or a research purpose, if you're interpreting, will be very different from if you're a critical realist or you are a positivist. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll end it.
Thank you very much, Prof. We are grateful.
Okay then. So I'll
Thank you, Prof.
make the video available to you guys. The slides is still the same slides I give you. The video is what will change.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Yeah, Derek.
Thank you, Prof. We are grateful.
So that's it. If there's, I don't know whether there are any announcements you have for your class. Okay.
No, Prof. We are safe.
Okay. Thank you.